Hello, Serge here for the Backyard Driving Range. Have a question, came into customer service from Roy Mullen, and Roy says, watching your swing in the daily videos and instructional videos show both feet flat on the ground, centered in the foot. When I slide slightly back to the preloaded heavy right position, my weight shifts so that it rolls to the outside of the right foot. I have to consciously shift it back to the center of my foot to keep the foot flat on the ground. Am I doing something wrong so that the weight shifts to the outside edge of my foot? What problems could occur as a result of this weight shift? Submitted again by Roy Mullen. Okay, Roy, I guess we could say that something wrong is happening in that when you go to the outside of your foot, that's not good. And so right off the bat, I think the simplest thing could be that, A, maybe you're just shifting it too far. As we know, we want the stance shoulder wide. And the only foot that gets wider in the stance will be the forward foot. The right foot should be in the same place with every golf club. So let's first and foremost establish that place, because I think there's a good chance that, A, you probably have your right foot under you too much, so that even the slightest shift will get the foot outside. And you got to do this now, and to get that foot centered, if it's in the wrong place, in other words, too much under you, now that almost forces your weight to actually drift a little forward to be almost sort of preloaded heavy right, okay, or left of center at least. All right, so here's how we find this. Now again, I'm going to repeat this. We play the back foot in the same place with every golf club. When we go from a wedge with a stance that's inside the left, inside the shoulder width, to a driver which will basically have 2/3 or most of the foot outside the shoulder width. Again, you can check that out right here. This is about my driver stance. All right, notice I just moved that foot again from where I had it to demonstrate where you were, Roy. Okay, so a wedge will be about here, and then my driver goes almost about the width of a foot, where the inside will now be where the outside of the foot was for the wedge. Okay, you with me on that? So here's the checkpoint for the right foot. Put the club underneath your armpit, take your stance. If I'm going to guess there's a good chance your club, when it comes straight down into your stance, is outside your kneecap and actually coming down at, or maybe even the foot is inside of where the club comes down. It should come down to when you get into your stance and you get your right knees outward pressure, where the knees are straight down over the ankles, all right, over the center or inside center of the ankles. That club, that's where your foot should be for all clubs with the right foot. This is the only foot that's going to move. So I'll start this foot with a wedge just about where somewhat of the foot, half the foot is in here, if I'm really getting in a short wedge or a chip shot, to the driver, which will come down just about there at the heel. Okay, and that'll give you a good idea that with a driver you'll be at the heel, or the ball will be somewhat pretty close to out from your armpit. Okay, so I think that number one, your foot's probably too narrow. So get that drill here. Naturally, if until I get my wide pressure, the kneecap will be, when I get the outward pressure, it will be over the center of the ankle, and there's your case there. Another way I'd like to try to teach it is just, if you're standing up with your weight equally between both feet, with whatever stance you're going to use, all you have to do is imagine picking your belt up and just going like that. Just pick it up and moving your belt buckle or your belly button about no more than 1 inch. All right, so that's a preloaded heavy right concept. All right, so the question becomes, I think the problems would come from that is that if your feet are in an improper place, even when you get preloaded heavy right, you're going to have problems with your backswing, where once you start to make your weight shift and turn, you could find yourself, if the foot's under you too much, as soon as you turn, you're losing your balance. And so therefore, you'll almost make no turn, and in fact probably have the foot push forward a little bit to not fall backwards. So that's why it's so critical that your foot be in the proper place, again right here, so that what the little turn we do make, you're right on the inside center of your weight. My weight is down. My weight comes right down through my ankle, through the center of my heel of my foot, and it's on there, so that, and the right leg tends to flex a little bit more, as I call sit or sink in the backswing. So now I can actually push up and forward when I transition, when I ring the bell and bump. Okay, so that's the key. Yeah, a lot of bad things could happen if that foot's under you too much. Just as well, if it's too wide, you'd have to sway, and very likely in swaying to it and turning, which allows more turn, very likely, your leg will likely straighten up and push you forward. So I don't really see, again, you could sway all the way to it and lose your weight, but I think that I see more often with people trying to do the peak performance setup, which means the feet are narrower, they actually have the foot too under them rather than too outside. But either way, that's a big problem. But I see more of the feet too narrow, especially the back foot. All right, so get that back foot directly from the shoulder socket the shaft comes right down, touches the knee to the center of the foot, and I think you'll find that you'll be able to make that nice little in the mitt and up the tree turn with the sinking onto the back leg, so you can have a good stable turn. And again, if you're doing this, to make too big a turn is going to very likely pull you out of balance. So that's why this position is also very good in that, making sure that you're very likely, it'll help you not overturn and not overswing, because you'll lose your balance. So you just get in that position, you push off and swing through and hit the ball more solid straight and shoot those lower scores. Well, that's it for today from the Surge, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.